And thank you, everybody, for joining us here tonight. I am James Boss, joined alongside Shane Tinney, as you are here with us for the victory lap. And Shane, how are you feeling so far tonight?
I'm doing good tonight. It's been a good day. We got fall break next week, a little break from school. How are you doing tonight? How's your day?
It was a long day.
Yeah.
But it's almost over.
Yeah.
We're on the best part of it now.
We are, of course.
So, right now, I'd say I'm feeling pretty good.
Yeah, I agree.
But with that, we're going to get started on our topics here tonight. We're going to kick it off with some football, and we're going to start it a little depressing here. Last Thursday, there was a rather large hit. It wasn't that big of a hit, but Tua Tagovailoa hit the ground hard, and his brain just kind of went. And it was the first time this year, at least, that we've seen a really bad reaction on a concussion.
Yeah.
He had one the week before where he was stumbling a little, trying to get back up off the ground, which, looking at it, we thought at the time it was a concussion. Obviously they left him back in the game at the time, but that was the first sign of just some questionable behavior, and then the hit last week was just the cherry on top.
Yeah, on Sunday against the Bills, I remember they tried to say it was a back issue, which, looking at the hit, I don't believe that.
No. His head slammed into the ground. That wasn't a back.
Yeah, he got up off the ground, and if you saw him, he kind of shook his head to kind of shake out the cobwebs, and then he was just jogging. He just kind of just stumbled over. I don't know. That is not signs of a back injury. I think they just tried to rush him back into the game, but just not a good look for the Dolphins or for the NFL. I think the good news is I think he is doing better now.
Yeah, I saw he's been released from the hospital.
Yeah.
But, the fact that he had to get checked into one in the first place is already speaking volumes.
Yeah, and so this happened on Sunday, and then you turn around, he comes back in the game Sunday, and then you turn around a few days later on Thursday, he's back in the game. So I think the NFL needs to be better about handling injuries like this, really, because it just didn't look good. Thursday, it's he's back already. It was just such a quick turnaround.
Exactly, and I think that's the biggest issue is obviously he was shaken up bad from that one hit, from the hit the week before against the Bills. And the fact that he was able not just to go back into that game, but a week after to be
not even
a short week with 3 days between games, they put him back in, and the first real hit he takes did that to him. It was one of the hardest things I've ever had to watch in a football game.
Yeah, and it's you don't want to see this happen to anybody, but
no.
Tua was off to such a good start. He was proving everyone
it was
wrong.
His first, everybody was dogging him coming into the year, basically saying you get him all these weapons, but he still stinks. He can't throw it downfield. Granted, he wasn't completely lighting the world on fire, but he was looking very good. He was using those guys that they got him, as good as you could have ever expected. And the fact that we had to see him go down is always just so sad.
They beat the Bills.
Yeah. Yeah.
He had that team off to the best start he probably could have done. And
he did, going into that Bengals game, they hadn't lost.
Yep.
They just beat the Bills. What more can you ask?
Yeah. Yeah, and with Tyreek and Jalen Waddle, that team was a real threat. And I just hope hopefully we do get to see more of Tua, but at the same time, got to make sure he's right before he steps on that field again.
Yeah. Yeah, they really do.
Yeah, I did read the doctor who cleared him got fired.
Yep.
Which that's
rightfully so.
Yeah.
I know that a lot of people were looking at it as kind of like the fall guy, trying to be hey, this is the NFLPA guy. We're gonna get him out of here so they have less power. So that could have played a factor, but at the end of the day, this is the guy that let him play.
Yeah.
He can't have a job after this.
Yeah, and like we were saying, if whatever protocols he cleared or anything, if he cleared those, then those said protocols need to be changed, because we can't have something like this happen again with anyone else. Just not a good look.
It's the worst look that the NFL really could have possibly had.
Yeah.
It doesn't get worse than that.
So I think Sunday Teddy will be starting.
He has to.
Yeah. So
if Tua starts on Sunday, heads will roll.
Oh yeah. I think he was ruled out, so I think we will see Teddy Bridgewater for that game. So
yeah,
you know.
But moving on, let's continue the little scary topic. This time in a much different light. Which team do you think is scarier, the Chiefs or the Bills?
You know, I think in our last couple weeks we were talking about the Bills and how they're just been clicking, rolling, fired on all cylinders. But I've seen enough. It's the Chiefs. They are just, man, they've scored 40 points twice this season already. They just hung 41 on Tampa, which is the best defense in the league, and Patrick Mahomes is amazing. Like, did you see that one play where he like scrambled out of the pocket and then did a 360 and then flipped it to Clyde Edwards-Helaire?
I saw that play. Remember when you tried to write it for me?
Yes.
Yeah,
for
that was
our one
miserable.
class. Yes.
You made my life miserable.
I
with
did.
That.
Yes. I had to throw it in there. It was that impressive.
Well, you had to throw it in there, but you didn't have to just... We were watching the video. You didn't have to say, oh, he hits a 360 and he does this and he rolls out and he does this. You sounded a lot like me. Not even I'm that bad.
It might have been the best play of the year so far. I think that's fair.
I'd say that just straight up is.
Yeah, so
is it the best play if you look at Pickens?
The George Pickens catch?
Yeah.
It's either one or two.
Yeah.
So yes, we had to talk about it then, but no, Patrick Mahomes is amazing. Like, nothing, the Bills are still the Bills. Like, they are absolutely going to be a threat, of course, and Josh Allen is obviously going to be an MVP candidate, but if we're going Chiefs or Bills, I got to switch over to the Chiefs.
Yeah, and I mean, I agree. I as good as the Bills are, like, just top to bottom, the Chiefs are still the Chiefs. Yep. Like, you said it yourself. There's no other way to say it. They hung 41 points on a defense that was allowing an average of 9.
Yep. In week 1, they scored 44 on the Cardinals.
Exactly. Granted, the Cardinals kind of stink.
Yeah.
But
you play who's on the schedule.
Exactly. And it's not like the Bucs were playing bad defense or bad offenses. I mean, I've been disrespecting the Packers all year, but they still have Aaron Rodgers.
Yep.
Like, that's still a good offense as long as he's around. And the Cowboys only scored 3 points, but that was with Dak.
Yep.
Like, this was a Cowboy team that was expected to win or to, like, be a Super Bowl contender. And since that game, they've been incredible. So it's, like, you can only imagine that they're going to be better with Dak. And the fact that they held that Cowboys offense to 3 points, it says a lot. It speaks volumes about this Bucs defense. And then they held the Saints to 10, and the Saints stink.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't really know how seriously you want to take that one. But, like, the other two games, like, it's not like the Bucs have just been playing these, like, garbage fire teams. They've been playing solid teams so far. And the fact that the Chiefs went in there and dropped 41 points. 41.
Yeah.
The Bucs hadn't even allowed that many points all in the first 3 weeks.
And I believe they had 41 like early in the fourth.
Yeah,
and
they didn't try.
Yeah, they kind of took their foot off the gas a little bit.
Yeah, because they had 28 at the half, didn't they? Or was it 31?
It was up there.
Yeah, it was like the game was over after 2 quarters. And if it was close, this Chiefs team is probably dropping like 50, 60 on them with the way they were playing.
Yeah, and we will get to see these two teams play each other on October 16th in Week 6. That will be a show, the Chiefs-Bills.
Yeah, that's going to be a good rematch there.
They are both 3-1, and like I said, the Bills are still here. But it's just, man, I think that game will be that'll be the true test for both of them. I think that'll be a show for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, man, because it's not just the offense that's so good about the Chiefs. Like, their defense, I mean, it's not incredible, obviously, but it always seems like when it needs to step up, it does.
Yeah.
Like, they're so good. That's all it really is. They're just such a good football team.
And again, you lose Tyreek to the Dolphins. It's watching them so far, you can't tell.
Yeah.
Travis Kelce is doing his thing, and it's just they haven't missed a beat.
And it's weird because it doesn't seem like a receiver has really stepped up, and it without Tyreek, it seems like it's just all been like, okay, we just have Travis.
Yeah.
Like, Travis is going to put up better numbers than he was before, and he was already putting up crazy numbers. And then we're just going to have a hodgepodge of receivers putting up good numbers. And
yeah, they got Juju, but he
hasn't really done a whole lot.
He's hanging in there.
Yeah, he's been solid. I mean, he's still a good receiver to have just on the run blocking alone.
Yeah.
And But yeah, man, the Chiefs are they're something else. They're just they're built different. That's all it really is.
Yeah. No, that week six matchup, that might be the game of the year already.
Yeah, I mean, it really will be.
In terms of matchups, yeah.
But moving on, we had this matchup earlier in the season, but Geno Smith has been outplaying Russell Wilson so far this season. Do you think the Seahawks actually miss Russ?
Well, I don't know if they miss him, but it's just like, Russ, what are we doing? Like in week 1, they faced each other and Geno Smith beat him. It's just, I don't know if they're both 2-2 right now. Geno Smith has more passing yards and touchdowns. Geno Smith has the highest completion percentage in the league, the whole league, with 77%. So I don't know if Russ is still just kind of getting used to his new team, but it's just, we have not seen the Russell Wilson that we know and love. And I mean, good for Geno Smith. Like, I don't know who would have expected this, but do the Seahawks miss him? I don't know. They're kind of just doing just fine.
Yeah, I think it's weird because Russ, they don't miss at all. You heard it from them out of their mouths after week 1. They were all so happy to play against Russ, and they were looking forward to that because they hated him.
It sounded personal, some of those press conferences after that game.
Yeah, and so I don't think they miss Russ. I think they miss a guy who's a talented quarterback. Because as good as Geno Smith has been, we all know it's still Geno Smith.
Yeah.
End of the day, this is a guy who's never been a good quarterback. He's gotten off to an incredible start. No doubt about that. But he's not someone that they really want to rely on, I think. And Russ, at least for a majority of his career, was. And so I think they miss a guy as talented as Russ, but they don't miss Russ himself.
Yeah, because we were talking about it earlier. Russell Wilson, as far as like when you look at like the 2010s decade, he's one of the best in this era. And now it's like, yeah, you know, he's now replaced with Geno Smith, who's been almost like mainly like a backup.
Yeah.
For the last few years, at least.
mean, his whole career basically has been a backup.
Yeah, but I don't know, and I think the Seahawks might have better because DK Metcalf is probably the best receiver out of both of those two teams.
Probably. I mean, the Broncos have good receivers, but I don't think any of them are as good as DK.
Yeah, I mean the Broncos did just lose Javonte Williams for the season, so
that hurts.
That definitely hurts.
Yeah, because Melvin Gordon is not exactly a guy you want to, count on for anything.
Yeah.
He's kind of horrible.
But no, Russ, I don't know. I do think he's too good to be like this all season.
That's what you'd think. But Russ is weird. He's not a human. Like, he doesn't operate on the same way that a regular human does, so I honestly wouldn't be that surprised if he just falls off the face of the earth this year and it's official that he's just bad.
Well, the Broncos better hope he steps up because of the money they paid him, and he's there for 5 years.
Yeah, they paid him a lot of money. Should have given that to the punter. Eli said it himself.
My guy Eli Manning said it best when they elected to go for the field goal instead of going for it on 4th down. When Russell Wilson, I believe, has the second most game-winning drives since like 2012 or something like that. And yeah, so the Broncos better hope he steps up because this is your guy now for 5 years.
Yeah, and they could be in for a long 5 years if he keeps playing like he is this year.
Yeah, and as far as Geno Smith, do we really think he's going to keep this up for 17 games?
No. He might keep it up for 2 more, maybe, if he's lucky. That's if he plays the Lions every week. Like, Lions, that was a heartbreaking. Your
Lions.
It was a heartbreaking weekend.
That was something.
That was an incredible
Talk about
game.
A shootout.
Yeah, I mean, the Lions' offense is legit. Like, it's really good because they did that without Amon-Ra St. Brown and DeAndre Swift. So, that's a really good offense, but my God, that defense is terrible.
Yeah, there's a certain tight end who had himself a day.
Yeah, which one was that?
That was none other than T.J. Hawkinson.
Where was he on your fantasy team?
Who, for that day, sat right on my bench.
That's tough. He was starting on mine.
Oh, was he?
Yeah, I mean, I lost anyway, but,
I made the mistake of starting George Kittle, which before the game sounded like, okay, yeah, got to start Kittle.
Reasonable.
But then I see on my bench there's 40 points in there.
Yeah.
180 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, that's the most receiving yards in a Lions tight end in franchise history in a single game.
Good for him.
Yeah, great for him.
Not for me.
Yeah.
Because I lost my matchup, and I blame it on that.
Oh, well, maybe if you were just a better manager, you wouldn't have made that issue.
I think I should start him this week. Especially with all
now you can't. because now he's going to have like 4 points. It always happens.
Yeah, probably.
No
But
one ever has
the Lions are
back-to-back
missing.
40s.
We just who?
Well, they're missing St. Well, St. Brown
St.
might
Brown?
be back. I don't know about this
I
weekend.
think I read he will actually be out.
Well, if he's out, then maybe you should.
Is Swift good?
No. Swift is gone for a couple weeks now.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, so we'll see. But yeah, that was a tough loss.
Yeah, that was a good time. But moving on to our final bit of football, your Giants are. You want to explain their interesting quarterback situation they got going right now?
So Daniel Jones sprained his ankle. The quick good news is they are optimistic he will be able to play this weekend against the Packers. So
Oh, boy.
in London, by the way,
Oh, boy.
that'll be fun.
That'll be a good time.
Yeah, he goes out. They bring in Tyrod Taylor. He, for whatever reason, thinks he's Derrick Henry and takes a hit to the head, and he's out for a concussion. And then who do they line up as quarterback? Saquon Barkley
Offensive Player of the Year.
was back there taking snaps, and it's like, man, you talk about a one-man like offense right there. And while we're on the topic of Saquon, he has 463 rush yards on the season. That is more than 21 teams as a whole. And yeah, the quarterback situation. Yeah, I read earlier that they were working out Jake Fromm. Jake Fromm.
State Farm.
Jake Fromm State Farm, yes. And also him and AJ McCarron, who has started
legend.
who has started 4 games in his career dating back to
Go Bengals. Bengals legend.
2015. Yep.
We love AJ McCarron.
So-
He's proof that all Alabama quarterbacks are great at football.
Yeah. In college, yeah. But yeah,
No, NFL.
yeah, in his his 4 career starts.
Oh, yeah.
You think?
He lit it up.
Well, he might just be starting for the Giants if something happens with Daniel Jones, which we obviously hope it doesn't. But
Obviously.
yeah, watching that sequence of events transpire in that game, Jones goes down. Okay, Tyrod, then he goes down. It's almost like, oh, now what? And then, yep, you throw Saquon back there taking snaps. So, yeah, the Giants, it's a fun time watching them every weekend.
I bet. It's really fun for me from the sidelines because, I don't really care about the Giants. They're just kind of there. For some reason, they keep winning games. But, I mean, they find a new way to mess up every single season.
They won that game.
They did.
They did.
They certainly did.
Pulled out a victory in that game.
They're 3-1 somehow. Who knows? Doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't.
But,
The NFC East has the best record as a division in the league.
yeah, how's that happening?
How?
There's like...
Just what everyone had written up before the season,
Obviously.
right? Yeah.
Obviously. I mean, I think there's one actual good team in there right now. Granted, I mean, maybe the Cowboys are good, but I don't know if I'll say they're actually good until Dak comes back.
Yeah. And but the good news with the Giants, Saquon Barkley is back. I think it's official.
Yeah.
Saquon is back.
The issue with Saquon right now, I mean, it's not that he's not a good player. This is why he keeps breaking. Because the Giants run him into the ground because he is their only worthwhile piece on offense.
Yep.
And as long as that is the case, Saquon will be playing 8 games a season. And so...
And then we'll eventually request a trade in a couple of years.
Exactly, but by then his legs will be dead, and he probably won't be worth much of anything. So that's the issue with the Giants, is they have this superstar, one of the best running backs. You could argue the best running back in football.
You could argue. Yep.
And he's just going to get hurt by the end of the season because he's going to have to carry the ball 40 times, and he's going to be taking snaps as a quarterback because everyone is dead.
Yeah, it's him, and like we talk about it every week. Daniel Jones, he shows signs where he'll have like a play or two here and there, but he just hasn't been like that guy. We don't look at Daniel Jones and think like he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. No one's saying that.
I don't think anyone has ever said that.
No.
Except maybe the Giants front office.
Yeah, and speaking of Daniel Jones, do you want to hear a crazy stat?
I would love to hear a crazy stat.
He has the second most rushing first downs by a QB through 4 games since 2000 with 18, second only to Michael Vick.
Wait, what?
Second most rushing first downs through 4 games.
Okay, my brain heard touchdowns, and I was very confused because I knew he didn't have 18 touchdowns.
First downs.
Yeah, that's still a lot. Really?
Even more than MVP season Cam Newton.
And MVP Lamar.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
That is kind of crazy.
So he's got some wheels.
We knew he could run.
He can scramble for sure. He had 2 rushing touchdowns on Sunday, I think. Yeah.
I mean, it's always just, can his legs keep up with him?
Yeah, that was we all remember that moment of him breaking away for the 70-something yard touchdown and then just
Falling.
Realizes he's moving too fast.
Yeah, it happens to the best of us.
Yeah, but I don't know. The Giants, it's a great time watching them every weekend to see what's gonna happen next. But Saquon is a stud.
Yeah, I mean, do you think they have like any chance of like holding on for like the rest of the season?
Like continue playing the way?
Yeah, continue just like to keep being good.
Well, they got 3 wins, which is only 1 more less than they had all season last year. So I think they're already kind of exceeding expectations. I could see them winning. They keep it up. I don't know, around 10 games maybe, because their defense is
solid.
You can work with the defense.
Yeah, Thibodeau's good.
Yeah,
and that helps. But I mean, I don't know.
Daniel Jones.
They seem fake.
Daniel Jones got to be better.
I mean, they obviously are fake.
And Kenny Galladay needs to go.
I mean, he's the anti-MVP, according to Shane Tinney.
Yes, I will back that statement. We are paying him all this money for him to just. I think he has like 30 yards on the whole season. So,
yeah, that's rough. But I would like to thank everybody for joining us here in the first half of the Victory Lap. We're about to step away for a quick break. On the other side, we're going to have a whole lot of baseball coming up. So I'd like to thank everybody for listening. We'll see you soon.
Stay tuned.
And thank you all for joining us here tonight on the Victory Lap. I am James Boss, joined alongside me is Shane Tinney, and we're going to get some baseball talk started. And to kick off baseball, I want to run through the award winners of one of my favorite stats to ever exist. It's called the Mathis. Okay. It is when a player has at least 200 plate appearances and an OPS plus below 60. So it's essentially players who have a very long run time and were terrible.
Okay.
The winners of this award this season, there's a lot of them this year. They're more than normal. Geraldo Perdomo, Nicky Lopez, Jackie Bradley Jr., Andrew Velasquez, Austin Hedges, Nick Allen, Lurie Garcia, Yadier Molina, future Hall of Famer, Mauricio Dubon, Christian Pache, Paul DeJong, Didi Gregorius, Garrett Hampson, my personal favorite player on this list, Brett Phillips. Love the guy to death. Great dude. Robinson Chirinos, Jonathan VR, the one player on this list I had never heard of, Brian Servin, and then my other boy, Sam Hilliard. So I'd just like to celebrate these 18 players who sucked this year, and I hope they all have a great offseason because most of them aren't playing anymore.
Hopefully. And there's I can't think of there's a guy who wasn't on that list of 18 guys you just named. I think he plays for the Yankees. He just broke some kind of record for home runs. You help me out?
It's Josh Donaldson, right?
Josh.
Oh no, Joey Gallo.
There we go. Joey Gallo. But Aaron Judge, just want to say congratulations to him. And you and me personally got to see one of those home runs in person.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Over the summer.
That was rough.
Yeah. 62 home runs.
That's a lot of homers.
62. The American League single-season home run king.
Yes.
That had to be, I think, a weight off his shoulders getting that. Even though it came in the last game he played of the season because Aaron Boone sat him yesterday, right?
Yep.
Yeah, yesterday.
And they lost. 99 wins. Imagine not winning 100.
Doesn't matter. That game had no meaning to it. But yeah, it was. I mean, just watching him chase that all season, it was just so fun to watch every game, and like, especially towards the end when he was like upwards in the 50s, like. It seems like everybody was kind of tuning in just for every at bat. It was like, and every time the ball left his bat, it was.
Yeah, it was driving me insane.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, I was, well, for different reasons for the two of us. I hated nothing more than the daily notifications from MLB.com being like, hey, this Aaron Judge game is streaming for free. You should watch it and tune in every single night for like 2 weeks because he forgot how to hit for a couple weeks.
It was historic.
It was
this season.
infuriating.
Yes, it was.
I hated getting notifications. So I don't care about Aaron Judge. He's a bum. I mean, he's objectively not, but I will say he is because he should have hit more homers. He was at 60 for 2 weeks.
He was stuck at 60 and 61. It seemed like forever. And I remember we discussed it last week, but he was not getting nothing to hit. He was getting walked left and right.
He struck out every other at bat.
He was getting walked 4 times in games.
Every at bat he had ended in a walk or a strikeout. So I don't want to hear he didn't see anything to hit.
I mean, he didn't. If we were watching the games, they were literally pitching around the strike zone.
How are you going to strike out and not see anything to hit? Aaron Judge is a bum.
He got the record. He got the record. That's what we care about. He finished. He didn't get the Triple Crown. That would have just been like another bonus of this season for him. But I think he finished with a 3.11 average. I mean,
still solid.
Led the league.
Not bad.
Tied with Pete Alonso, actually, who we're going to talk about in a little while. 131 RBIs, tied the both of them. And yeah, what a season. And this is another fun fact. That game where he hits his 62nd home run, they lost that game, which gave them a record of 99 and 62. How perfect.
You mean 99 and 63?
99 and 62.
99 and 63. There's 162 games in a baseball season.
I think that was the record when they lost that game.
Oh, you mean? Well, no. Yeah, never mind. You're right.
When they lost the game, it was
I can't. Yeah. I'm illiterate. You just have to go with me here.
It's okay.
I mean, obviously, I know I've been slandering Aaron Judge. It's kind of my favorite thing to do. He just broke the AL home run record. That means something. That's really, really impressive. And 62 home runs is a number I'm not sure we'll see again for a long time. It's a lot. Obviously, it's not. I mean, you're seeing a whole lot of people claiming it's the all-time single-season home run title. It's not. Barry Bonds still hit 73. He was on steroids, but it doesn't matter. 73 is still 73. But
that'll be a debate forever.
It will be, and anybody who says Aaron Judge is the real king is wrong.
The fans can debate that. They can have their conversation because it's like, yeah, I mean, Barry Bonds was like, he did hit 73 home runs.
Yeah.
But he cheated.
He did, and there's always going to be an asterisk.
He cheated.
Always. But 73 is still 73. You've had a lot of guys cheating and no one else has hit 73.
It's kind of, it's there in the history books. It'll be there forever.
Yep.
Fans can go back and forth about it, but yeah, 73.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm going to avoid saying my last bit of notes that I had for this because I don't want to make you that upset.
Also,
stop it.
Keeping it with the Yankees real quick.
Stop it.
Shout out Garrett Cole.
Oh, my God.
Shout out Garrett Cole. Surpassed Ron Guidry for the most strikeouts in franchise history with 249 for a season.
Who cares?
We just had to talk about that quick. But
who cares? Nestor still had a full run higher or a better ERA than Garrett Cole. Garrett Cole's. Who cares?
250.
Everybody strikes out now, and Garrett Cole's always been good at striking out people. But he had a 3.5 ERA this year, which for him is kind of trash.
The most in Yankees history.
I don't
that's
care.
All. Broke a record. That's it.
I don't care.
And leads the league in strikeouts.
Doesn't matter, man. Next.
But yeah, staying with baseball, the Milwaukee Brewers. Pretty much. What happened?
A lot. They had a golden ticket to be able to steal that third wild card slot, and they proceeded to go 4-6 over their last 10 games, and those games came against the Reds, who I think were the worst team in they were the second worst team in the National League. They lost to the Marlins, who were trash.
Yep.
And they lost to the Diamondbacks, who are trash. They went 4-6 in their last 10 games against those teams. If they were even just like kind of good, if they went like 6-4, they would have been fine. If they went 7-3, they would have been fine. They just needed to not suck against 3 bad baseball teams, and they would have made the playoffs. And instead, they stunk, and they didn't make the playoffs. So, ha.
First time missing the playoffs since 2017.
Yep.
And they had that first place locked up for a while.
Yeah.
In the NL Central for like
and
the
then
first
the Cardinals
half of the
kind of
season.
started happening.
And then the Cardinals happened.
Yeah.
Do you think with this kind of collapse, do you think they sort of go into like a rebuild mode now,
I don't think
entering free agency?
they're weird because I don't understand the way they build their team at all because they just decide to ignore offense. It seems like every single offseason, even though it's literally the only thing they need to fix because they have the pitching. Every single piece of it is there. But they traded Josh Hader at the deadline. So maybe they're trying to sell this offseason. I don't really know. It still seems like as long as they have Woody and Corbin Burns. And if Freddie Peralta's healthy, like this rotation should be enough to carry them to the playoffs most seasons. And Willie Adames is one of the most underrated players in baseball. So they shouldn't sell. They should continue to try because their team is solid and their division is bad.
Yep.
And at the very least, that should make them at least try to win a baseball game. I don't know if they will because they've continued to just baffle my brain. And they have no business to just sell.
Yeah, and I mean, Corbin Burns is. Do you think? Because I think I read something about them potentially moving him, or should they or anything? You think he stays with the team?
He should.
Yeah.
I mean, the Brewers have to pay him.
Yeah.
He's arguably the best pitcher in the NL. I mean, he's not because Jacob deGrom exists as long as he's healthy. But, I mean, the guy won Cy Young last year. He's really good. They shouldn't let him leave.
Yeah. Yeah, and, Jacob, speaking of Jacob deGrom, the Mets are another team that didn't collapse to the point of falling out of the playoffs like the Brewers did, but they lost that first place spot to the Atlanta Braves. How did it happen? What happened?
Well, they didn't. It's not that their collapse. Well, their collapse is interesting because, like, if you look at the record over the last 10, it wasn't that bad.
Yeah, I mean,
like it was solid, but their biggest issue was they had a 3-game series against the Braves in their second to last series of the season. They needed to win at least one game. They had Jacob deGrom starting, Max Scherzer starting, and Chris Bassett starting. That's their three. That's their big three. They lost every single game, and now they have to play an extra round in the playoffs. If they won one of those games, they would have had the tiebreaker over the Braves, and they would have had the first round bye.
Yeah, because they finished with the same record on the season now. Yep.
And so there's absolutely no reason that the Mets should be playing right now. It's kind of hilarious that they are, because, I mean, we said it last week, the only way the Mets wouldn't have a first round bye is if the Mets were going to Met. And lo and behold, the Mets ended up Metting, and now they're playing the Padres.
Yeah, and I mean, this was a while ago, but on June 1st, the Mets were up on the Braves by 10.5 games.
Yeah.
And now we look at what it is now. Like,
granted, that one's weird because the Mets were solid since that time. The Braves just became the best team in baseball.
Yeah. Oh, man, they caught fire.
So, like, you can only blame part of that on the Mets. A lot of that is just you got to credit just how good the Braves are as a team.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, we said collapse, but they didn't really. They just kind of lost that pivotal, like, that number one spot to the Braves. And I think heading into the postseason, that's obviously not what they wanted, was to play next round of playoffs, but I think they did close out the season winning 3 straight games. So at least they are coming into tomorrow with a little bit of momentum going into that series. So, and the Mets, I mean, Jeff McNeil wins the batting title too.
Yeah, he's good. He's a squirrel.
Took it from your boy.
I don't care.
Freeman?
He won 111 games. Doesn't matter if we win a batting title.
Yeah, the Dodgers are. Yeah, there's something else.
Yeah.
And the Mets. How do we think they're going to be? Well, they got the Padres tomorrow. Who do you got in that series?
Well, that one's interesting. I mean, I wrote it down as this is the battle of the chokers. Both of these teams have a history of falling apart when it matters most. The Padres were like up there with the Dodgers last season in the NL West. And then from, I believe, the start of August to the rest of the season, they had the worst record in all of baseball and proceeded to miss the playoffs. So the Padres did that. And then there's also the 2020 season where the Dodgers swept them in 3 games. So I have absolutely zero respect for the Padres as a franchise. So there's that end of things. But on the other side, you have the Mets, who meted their way to 101 wins and a wild card game. So, like, what are we doing here? And so I think the way I look at it, for the Padres, Soto has to heat up.
Yep.
Machado needs to keep doing what he's been doing all season. Joe Musgrove needs to get his head out of his behind. And then Darvish just needs to keep being Darvish. He's really good at baseball, and he's always been good in the playoffs outside of one game against the Astros, in which we don't need to talk about it because the Astros were cheating, evil people, and
Yes,
they
they
make me
were.
want to say words that I'm not allowed to say right now.
Me too, because Altuve stole an MVP from Judge. But anyways.
And he knocked you guys out of the playoffs.
Yes.
But the Mets, I think that it's the Mets. They should win this.
I agree.
They should be fine. Pete Alonso is angry, and that's a good thing.
Yes. 40 home runs on the season.
Like, you had a reporter ask him, like, how do you feel? Like, are you upset that you guys won 101 games and are playing in a wild card game? And Pete Alonso was like, we got swept by the Cubs. We deserve to be here. And he's 100% right.
Yeah.
You can't do that and expect to, get a first-round bye. And so I think the Mets are going to be fine. The one interesting thing for me here is that Buck Showalter went out and said that he's going to intend that he doesn't want to use Jacob deGrom in the wild card round, and he's going to try and save him for the NLDS. And that is just so disrespectful that I think it could light a fire under the Padres and push them ahead. Because, I mean, in a best of 3, in what world are you saying, oh, yeah, I'm just going to go and bench the best pitcher on the planet? Like, that's such an outlandish thing to say. I understand. I mean, if they lose game 1, and Jacob deGrom isn't starting game 2, Buck Showalter should be on the hottest seat in the world.
Yeah, I mean, I get that strategy too. Like, you're trying to save your guy. But, yeah, if you're the Padres, you might be like, oh, excuse me, like, we're here.
Yeah, it's not like the Padres stink. I mean, on paper, their team is still good. Like, they obviously don't have Tatis, but they still got Machado. They got Juan Soto.
Yep.
Josh Bell sucked when he became a Padre, but he was really good for the first half. Cronenworth is still solid, and their pitching staff, their starting rotation, is very good. Like, they very well have a shot at this.
Yeah, I think it's the Mets series to lose. I think the Mets are they're just like a complete team. From like obviously their offensive firepower and their pitching rotation. Obviously, I think, and of course Diaz. Of course Diaz, our guy. He's 1.34 ERA.
He is a legend.
Yes.
We love Edwin Diaz.
We love Diaz.
Eddie Diaz for life. Narco is the greatest song to ever exist.
Yes, that his walkout song is. I think everyone around the league agrees that's best in the game.
100%.
Yeah, but no, I think it's the Mets series to lose. Who are they starting tomorrow?
The Mets have Scherzer going tomorrow.
Okay.
It's going to be Scherzer and Darvish for game 1. Funny enough, Darvish is the only starting pitcher across these game 1 slate of games that has an ERA over 3. Every other starting pitcher has an ERA in the 2s. So, like, the fact that Darvish is in one category, the worst pitcher that's going tomorrow, is just absurd. And tomorrow's going to be such a fun day of baseball.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Keeping it with wild card matchups. Next, we're going to talk about the Mariners and Blue Jays. Ooh. Who do you got for this one?
Now, this is my personal favorite matchup that we got this week. I mean, I think it's going to be a fireworks show.
Yep.
It's essentially elite pitching versus elite hitting. And granted, for both of them, it's not like the other halves are good or bad. Like, the Mariners have elite pitching, but their hitting is still good. The Blue Jays have elite hitting, but their pitching's still solid.
Yeah.
And so I think with that, it's going to be probably the most fun series that we have. I think looking at the Blue Jays, Alek Manoah is starting game 1. And between October and September, the guy had a 0.80 ERA. He was averaging less than a run a game for the last month of the season.
It's like almost you're unhittable.
Yeah, and he's starting game 1. So that's going to be tough. Plus, they got George Springer, who is 6 for 15 against the Mariners this season. That's good. Plus, on top of that, he's also an incredible playoff performer. So he's a terrifying piece of that Blue Jays lineup. And then the interesting one for me here, the Blue Jays' Raimel Tilapia is 7 for 11 against Luis Castillo. I didn't expect to see that when I was looking up numbers. Mm-hmm. That was certainly an interesting surprise. So I think the Blue Jays offensively have the edge, no question.
Yeah.
It's just, can their bullpen hold up? Because that's been a question mark for them. And other than Jordan Romano, it's not that good. So I think that could be the biggest issue for the Blue Jays, because if you look at the Mariners, pitching wins playoffs. And the Mariners have the best starting pitcher ERA over the last month. They had a stretch from August to September in which they had like a 1.6 starting pitcher ERA, and it set the franchise record. And on top of that, the Mariners bullpen has done 70 less innings than the Blue Jays.
Shout out to the Mariners for even making the postseason. First time since 01.
They're not just here to make it. They're here to do some damage.
I agree.
They're here to be loud, and they will be.
Good for them.
I mean, my boy, Andres Munoz, is a legend out of the Mariners pen. He is the dirtiest reliever, and you could argue in all of baseball. He's been absolutely incredible. And you throw on top of that Paul Sewald, whose heart is literally inside of Seattle. Like, this Mariners team, they have everything. They have the energy, and like they have the big dumper and the Frenchman. Like, what? How are the Blue Jays gonna beat that? I don't know how. I think those two alone can carry anything because vibes. And that's not even mentioning Julio Rodriguez, who is the unanimous AL Rookie of the Year, who already locked up a $200 million contract after playing half a season. But I think the real reason the Mariners are going to win, among everything else that I have said, is they thrive in chaos ball. And October is chaos ball. The Mariners are the first team since 1898 to lead all of baseball in wins in one-run games for back-to-back seasons. They won 33 of them. They won 34 of them last year, 33 of them this year. That you haven't had a team be that good in close games in over 125 years. And on top of that, they led all of baseball in walk-off wins. They had 11 of them. So like, this team has the clutch factor.
They're hungry,
and they won it, and they know how to ride the energy. And I think when it comes down to it, that's going to be more than enough to push them over the Blue Jays, at the very least.
So you're definitely picking the Mariners then?
Absolutely.
The offense of Toronto,
it's great, but
highest team average in the league.
Don't get me wrong, it's incredible. The Blue Jays are a problem, and I just think that the Mariners pitching is going to do enough to shut them down, because in the end, pitching wins championships, and the Mariners have better pitching.
That's gonna be a good one. I think that'll be one of the better series for this weekend. But the next matchup I think we're gonna go over is the Rays going against the Guardians. What are your thoughts on that series? Who do you got for this one?
This is a good series. This is a really good one.
I agree. I think a slept-on one, too.
It is. And I think this is going to be the closest series out of all of them. I'm not sure the average baseball fan is going to love this series, because I don't see either team scoring more than 2 runs in any of these games. But this is by far the best pitching matchup that we have. I mean, just the way these two teams stack up is almost completely even. Like, both of these teams have really good pitching, starting and bullpen, and just kind of okay hitting. I think the Cleveland's probably got the edge on the hitting end, but I think Tampa might have the edge on the pitching end, just because Tampa's weird, and they just always seem to piece it together better than anybody. But
Tampa's a good team. Yeah.
I mean, looking at the pitching matchups just game by game, game 1, Shane Bieber and Shane McClanahan.
My guys.
Your guys. Game 2, Tristan McKenzie and Tyler Glasnow. Game 3, my boys, Cal Quantrill and Drew Rasmussen. You might not know who either of them are. They're good. I mean, they're not like as lights out dirty as the other guys, except Rasmussen, who's been kind of like filthy and has almost thrown 2 perfect games this year, which don't ask me how that happened, because I couldn't tell you. But these two teams match up really well. It's going to be a pitching battle. Neither of these teams are going to score a whole lot of runs. I think Cleveland's got the better team. The Rays just have more experience because Cleveland's relying on a lot of kids. They got Steven Kwan, who's a rookie. They got Andres Jimenez, who's not a rookie, but he's really young, and he hasn't really been in big games like this yet. And then, I mean, my personal favorite on the Guardians is Josh Naylor, who is just a absolute crazy person and 100%, he's got that dog in him. But
you need that for the postseason,
and you do need that. You should watch some Josh Naylor videos after this because he's a lunatic. He's honestly a psycho.
It's fired up.
It's awesome, and I want to see him do anything because he's going to be a highlight machine. People are going to finally learn who Josh Naylor is because people are going to have to start watching Cleveland baseball, and they're going to understand how much fun this guy is just in general. So I think that's going to be a big thing for Cleveland. And then on the Tampa side of things, I mean, Randy has been hot.
Yeah.
And he holds the record for the most home runs in a single postseason. So he's obviously a proven playoff guy, which you need.
You need a guy like that.
And so
that veteran presence. If
he gets hot like he did in 2020, he could single-handedly carry this team all the way to the World Series. On top of that, Wander Franco was heating up at the end of the season. And if he's hitting 350 like he was over the last couple weeks, that adds another layer to this offense because really, if he's getting on base for Randy, good luck. And Tampa they have the depth. Their bullpen is always deep. They just throw out guys you've never heard of, and they're always good because they throw 100 miles an hour. And their starting pitching, while it's never asked to do a whole lot, whenever it's out there, it's always great. And so I think this is going to be a really good series. I think Cleveland comes out on top, but I think this goes all 3 games.
So Cleveland in 3?
That's what I'm saying for this
Cleveland
one.
in 3? Okay. The last one we're going to go over quick is the Phillies and Cardinals. Who do we got here?
I think this one is probably the most boring series out of all of them because I think Philly kind of stinks.
Yeah.
I think the Cardinals have absolutely no business losing. The one thing that I will say, the Phillies could make things interesting since Nola and Wheeler are starting game 1 and 2, but at the same time, if they don't both win, it's over. They can't lose either of their starts because after that, who do they have? Kyle Gibson, Zach Eflin. Like, this team doesn't have the pitching depth, and so if those two guys can't get the wins for them, they're over. But the thing they have going for them is game 1, the Cardinals are starting Jose Quintana, and while he has a 2.93 ERA this season, like, it's Jose Quintana. He's not very good. And it seemed like they were just doing it because he's a lefty and he could throw off Harper and Schwarber. But, like, the rest of the Phillies are righties. Those are the only 2 lefties that really do anything for that team. So I'm not so sure that, like, sending out this lefty specialist or this lefty-lefty matchup in game 1 is the smartest thing to do in the world, especially when you have Adam Wainwright, who's a proven veteran, who's won every single big game he's ever really needed to. But I mean, even with all of that, Cardinals are fine. Their team is just better. They have the depth. Their offense is just loaded. Yeah. And I mean, they have the MVP in Paul Goldschmidt. They have another top guy who's probably going to finish top 3 in Nolan Arenado. Like, this team's fine. They shouldn't.
Can't forget Albert either.
Can't forget Albert.
Cannot
forget Albert, who is on an absolute heater right now.
He is.
And so, like, between those three, this team should be just fine. They shouldn't run into any problems. The Phillies aren't that good.
Yeah, and we talk about veteran presence. What other than Albert Pujols in your dugout?
The Cardinals are the definition of veteran presence.
Yep. So we saying Cardinals in...
The Cardinals in 3 because I think Wheeler and Nola take 1 win. I think they win game 1 and then lose 2 and 3.
So I think that about does it for these matchups right here. But last, we're gonna go over our World Series matchups. Who do you got?
I'm gonna make anybody who's listening from home upset because I am not picking the Dodgers because they disappoint every single season, and I have zero faith in them to do anything ever. I don't care if they won 111 games. I have watched the Dodgers play in October, and never once have they been the same team that I saw in the regular season, except for the one season where no fans were allowed to be at games.
Come on.
So
It counted.
No, don't get me wrong. It counts, but it's not the same. And so they weren't allowed to play at Dodger Stadium. They weren't allowed to have, like, they could only sell, like, a quarter capacity. Like, these games, that one, while they won, it's not a real title. I think that's a fair thing to say. It doesn't hold the same kind of weight as a regular 162-game title does. Sure, all 30 teams were fighting for it, but they were only fighting for 60 games. And I think that impacts the title. But that's off topic. I think the Mariners are going for the American League. I genuinely think the winner of the Mariners-Blue Jays series is going to the World Series. And I think the NL is going to be represented by the Mets. I want to say the Braves. I just think it's too hard to repeat in baseball. And I think the Mets are going to come out on top on this one.
So for mine, for the NL, I can't ignore the Dodgers. I mean, we talked about it. They won 111 games. You look at their team from top to bottom. They might be the best team in the league, but in the AL, come on. You know I got my guys. The Yankees are going to go to the World Series. They're going to get their revenge against Houston in the process. And, yeah, I think we're going to have a classic Yankees and Dodgers showdown. And I think the Yankees are going to win. It's about time. We've been getting to the postseason year after year for the past few seasons. I think to top off the fairy tale season that Judges had, we're winning that World Series this year over the Dodgers.
Yeah, there's no shot either of those teams make it.
Absolutely, there is.
No, not at all.
There's no shot that they don't. I'm saying that.
If we are not allowed to make bets on air, I will save this until we get off. There's no chance. Absolutely zero.
I mean,
it's not happening. The Dodgers just are. This is two playoff choking teams. It happens every year. You've seen it. I know you have.
I don't know what you're talking
Don't
about.
get caught up again. Don't do it.
It's time. We are getting to that World Series.
No, you're not. Neither are we.
It's been too long, and I can't wait till we play Houston because we're getting by them all the way to that World Series.
Yeah, good luck with that one.
That's what we got.
Yeah, I like where your head's at. The confidence is certainly something, but
Absolutely.
that's going to wrap it up for us here tonight. I would like to thank everybody for listening to us here on the Victory Lap. I've been James Boss. Joined alongside me is Ben Shane Tinney. And I hope you all have a wonderful night.